This is going to be more of a introduction and a brainstorming session on topics, and I think we had a lot of great discussions around, primarily around Helm chart, I would say, and there was a lot of discussion went on the Helm chart. So I think what I would request is that let's go through the table. I think there's a lot of community members that probably don't know each other. So let's have a quick introduction and introduce yourself and what is our goal, and so that we can connect names with the face, and also a little bit understand about is there any topic that you would like to discuss today. We still have like a time up to 5 p.m. if people stay. And we originally for 5:30, but I think we can wrap it up around 5 p.m. given the schedule, like we are pretty close to that. So with that, let me start with my introduction. So this is Kandan Kadrivel. I think most of you know me pretty much. And I'm a group product manager in Google. And I'm responsible for both the telecom automation and analytics products. So I come from a telecom background. So I've been with the telecom for the last 20 years. And I was with AT&T for 17 years. Before that, with Verizon for some time. I've been quite a bit involved in many open source, like OpenStack. I used to be a product director in OpenStack, and quite involved in ORAN, starting the ORAN community, and quite a bit involved with the Tina, who was there before, and on the Linux Foundation Edge project. So I started a Crino project, and so here I'm a TSC chair, and really like to see this community succeed. So it's really great to have the whole team here, and I think especially the workshop, I think the community come together first time, like to make things happen very in a very short time frame. So I was very proud of that. So with that, let me pass around. I think today, primarily the session was really great. A lot of great discussion, and also it triggered the discussions around like things that we need to do with the CRDs and stuff like that, where we put it in. I think this was to start the discussion in, but we need to go deeper on some of those sessions. So we originally planned to have some TSC topics, like the way I was saying in the morning, but we don't have all the TSC members to sort of brainstorm those items. So we can focus more in the socialization of the, who are the people are, and what do you really like to achieve in Nephio, and what do you like to see in the Nephio, and those sort of things. So with that, I will pass it on to Sana, so Sana can actually introduce. So I think I would appreciate, if you don't mind, like I know it's a little bit of struggle, but we have a very small team here. I would say come in the front so that people can see you in face, or turn and talk so that people can see you. So with that, Sana.
Thanks, Kandan. I just started eating cracker when Kandan said I will introduce myself first, so I quickly finished, so I can introduce. So I'm Sana Tariq. I'm a principal technology architect in TELUS, and I have been working in service orchestration from a cloud team for the last 5 years. Besides that, I'm also the founder of Open Source Program Office in TELUS, and I work in the CTO office. I'm also involved with working with some universities right now for AR video optimization research. We are working directly with the PhD students, both in U of T and UBC, which is something that I really enjoy at my work. Other than that, I love open source, and currently Nephio is one of the projects that is taking up some time in my schedule in the open source world. And that's it.
Hey everyone, I'm Kaushik, principal engineer at Google. Been with, in the network infrastructure domain for the last 15 years, and especially in the last 8 years, been working closely with many telcos globally to build network infrastructure and various other service capabilities. So look forward to this open source community. Really excited about Nephio.
All right.
I don't think so. We need your introduction.
I'll be quick then. I'm John Bellameric, senior staff software engineer at Google. So I actually work for the Anthos organization, Anthos configuration management and policy management. So a lot of the underlying tooling. But the reason I'm involved with these folks from the telco organization is that I spent 10, 15 years or so doing network management software for enterprise networks. So have some experience in networking, if not telco, at least at networking side. So yeah, and I'm also deeply involved in Kubernetes, open source Kubernetes. I'm the chair, one of the chairs of SIG architecture there, and involved in other aspects of it as well. So.
All right, so hi, my name is Guillaume Bélanger. I'm engineering manager for telco at Canonical. Before that, I worked at Bell Canada for a couple of years. And yeah, now what I would like to say about the project, I think it is focus. So, you know, the project could do a lot of things. It won't do most of the things. So I think it's great that we figure out exactly what we want it to be, what it should do, and make sure that we do it really great, really well.
Hi everyone, this is Ling Li from China Mobile. I'm new to this community. Actually, I'm an observer here, and I'm looking forward to see, what you guys have been, trying to do, and what will come out, and how China Mobile could contribute to that. And especially speaking something about myself. I have been evolving actually from the standards world. I work for IETF and also 3GPP on behalf of my company, for 10 years from now. And starting from perhaps 5 years or so that we are starting to explore open source communities as another way of doing standardization, especially for network transformation. And since then, I have been leading the company's open source team focused on network transformation. We have been the founder for OpenO and then the merger to ONAP. And also, starting from last year, we have been also been supporting our headquarters in launching this campaign internally for autonomous network, which actually seeking to move not only from automation but to autonomy, which means that we embedded AI and analytics techniques into those closed loop to make the network actually goes to autonomy. I think something like that. And that is also because my boss, Dr. Feng, who is currently the chair of Linux Foundation Networking, she's actually coming from the AI background. But however, she's currently also leading our network intelligence project. And it's quite a huge, amount of resources that have been invested in it. But however, despite the fact that I also talked to some of the guys, China Mobile has been invested a lot in its 5G infrastructure construction, and also built over 100 edge sites inside China. But we failed to actually find a scale value customer that could actually make this infrastructure, monetize it actually. And the biggest challenge that we find out here is actually the closed ecosystem for the telecom cloud, because we are running those edge sites in the at-sea manner. So we don't have those toolings for CI/CD processes. We don't have those toolings for automation, and we don't have those toolings for AI analytics. Those are some things that we would like to introduce to our telecom cloud infrastructure by embracing cloud native ecosystem. So personally, I'm really excited about this project, and I hope that we could be involved more actively, as soon as we could officially, but perhaps you could see me personally involved, and in the following months, and I hope that more should come. Thank you.
Hi, hi. I'm AnTuVo, and I recently quit my job, so I'm not associated with the company. But I've been spending since 2014 working on service providers, software-defined networking, managed services acceleration, cloud networking infrastructure at Cisco, and then follow up with VMware, and most recently NF, network functions, CNF or VNF on DPU at a semiconductor company. And I started tracking ORAN and this group, Nephio, and I'm hoping to find a connection between ORAN, IMS, and DMS, deploying workload, network functions, on some of the nodes through Nephio.
So I'm István Kispál, please call me Mishti. I'm a distinguished member of technical staff at Nokia Bell Labs. That means I'm a researcher, I'm not building products. I'm here because in the last couple of years, I've tried to popularize inside Nokia to apply cloud-native principles, things like GitOps for telco orchestration. And in particular, I wanted to apply the Kubernetes control plane and use Kubernetes operator for telco orchestration. And then Nephio came along, and people started to listen. Before that, I had limited reach, and after that, suddenly everybody got interested. So now I'm here, and I'm very glad that Nephio came along, and with a very similar message that I wanted to, as I said, popularize inside Nokia. That's it. I have great hopes for this project to succeed. I think it's a very good idea, obviously.
So I'm Jean-Marie Calmel. I'm working for Nokia. I'm part of the CTO team of the organization that has the core network, all the OSS, BSS, analytics, and I'm the chief architect for automation and operations. I am a big believer of general and simple automation patterns that can be applied and start small and grow in terms of scope. So I'm very excited by the directions that the industry is taking with Nephio, because what's even more important than technical correctness is the level of adoption within the industry, and to have people knowledgeable about this technology.
Yeah, my name is Timo Perälä. I'm with the corporate CTO of Nokia at the Open Source Program Office. Been with open source projects something like maybe 6-7 years. On apps, MCOs, OSCs, what have you. Before that, some standardization, for example, at CNFV from day one. But I think the guys will tell exactly what's making us tick here. I think for me the original problem statement was kind of appealing, and I hope we kind of stick to that. Delivers.
It's not going to change because it's in the charter.
Exactly. So it's like if we deliver on that and kind of keep focus, I think there may lie some success ahead.
Yeah, Wim Hendricks, also from Nokia. So I'm actually heading the technology and architecture for NI. But so I was a developer, and then I was more consulting engineer working with customers. So I broad expertise, telco, but also enterprise, various markets. And so I became back a developer because I contributed quite a few things to the demo. But so, yeah, so what is my history? Besides, I mean, what I did with the customer, I was experimenting actually with Kubernetes and trying to see how it applied, because the journey for me started when I was onboarding our packet core on public cloud, and I saw the challenges around it, and I said, okay, this is way too complicated, because if you look at it, there is infrastructure, there is network functions, so there's a lot of dependencies, and what you see is that a network function focus on one thing, and then they embed all the infrastructure component to it and stuff like that. And so I said, okay, is there no better way that we can do so? So my first experiment was Yang to CRD, by the way, so which we discussed already. And so that led me to do more, right? Because that's the basis. From the moment you have something that allows you to talk to an element, you can go to the next stage and stuff like that. And actually, the first project that we did, so we productized some of the components that I did. There was a talk actually also this afternoon, which actually was presenting that capability. And then I saw the potential of all the KRM-based operations and this decoupling and stuff like that. And then Nephio came along. So yeah, I'm excited to be here because for me it was a bit, the experiment that I started as a pet project became something that I said, okay, there's a lot of potential here, and there's probably different ways of operations how we are used to, but there is a big mind shift that has to happen, and that will take time. So that's why I'm a big believer in, let's start with the foundation, build that right, and then we can gradually do more and more and more. So, but yeah, happy to contribute, and I will stay in the loop.
Hi, this is Pyeongchon. I'm a principal engineer of the Ericsson Software Technology. This year I'm mostly working for ONEP, and I'm a vice chair of the ONEP Architecture Subcommittee, a member of the Security Subcommittee, and then also handling the service orchestration in ONEP. And also I led ONEP SE alignment, building Nephio, SOAR 5, SOAR 3 implementation, and VNFM. And we defined the CNF4, and also we're working for some new descriptor called applied application descriptor, service descriptor, and then I'm going to describe tomorrow. And from this year, I'm watching and monitoring the Nephio, so see what we can do from Ericsson side. That's what I'm doing. Okay.
Sorry, I didn't get the company name.
Ericsson Software Technology, open source division. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Magnus Berger. I'm with Ericsson. Been with Ericsson for 32 years, so have a huge connection sort of network within Ericsson. I've lately been working mostly with open source and standardization, and I think open source makes a lot of sense. I think it's important that we embrace that in Ericsson. So more specifically, I'm in the ONUP TSC, and I'm also handling some connections between ONUP and standardization bodies. And then I'm also delegate to the ETSI CSM, the Zero Touch Management group in ETSI. And I belong to the network management team or the department in Ericsson. I think I joined this session to listen and learn. I'm ready to try to understand and to sort of advise others in the company on how to continue. I should just very shortly say that I think it's too bad that open source initiatives cannot work better together. I hope that we can make a sort of a working relationship between ONUP and Nephio. I think there's a lot to harvest from what's done in ONUP, and I think it's too bad that it seems to be when a new open source initiative it has to claim its turf and sort of push aside and try to show how it's different from other initiatives, and that makes sort of that kind of unnecessary fight between different open source engagements, like Vanessa Little was talking about yesterday, on that there were unnecessary competition. Okay, thanks.
Hi everyone, Frank Kelly is my name, another Ericsson guy. We all sit beside the Nokia guys. Well, wherever Timo is, I'm usually standing or sitting right behind him, or he's sitting right behind me, so we kind of follow each other around and have dinner sometimes, you know. For 4 years I've worked in Ericsson's open source division. We've been working a lot towards ONAP, ORAN, CD Foundation, OpenSSF, so you know, we're more diverse in what we're doing. And I work with a lot of very smart people, so I'm totally used to being the guy who knows nothing or knows the least about something. So I came here to learn about Nephio and understand a little bit more, you know, about the specifics of what it was, and to hear, you know, from people what problem it was trying to solve and how it was going to solve it. So I actually wanted to thank the people that put the demo together, because I know somebody made you work a weekend. So from my point of view, it really helped. Even though I kind of looked over Liam's shoulder most of the time when he was getting it working. But so thank you. It was really good. It was really good to see specifics and get an understanding and have you guide us through the whole thing. And I look forward to seeing more of that and understanding, you know, maybe how we can help out in time. You know. Oh, I'll, over a beer, John. Over a beer.
Hi, my name's Liam Fallon. I'm the second last Ericsson people. I think we have one Ericsson person who's not on the Ericsson row. And I only now realise that I'm actually longer in Ericsson than Magnus. But I've been noodling around Ericsson for far too long. But they been involved in management from even doing line tests in assembly language many years ago. Back to, but really kind of automation and autonomics. I was involved in research in that for quite a while, and then became kind of a convert to open source only 4 or 5 years ago, working in ONAP, and kind of have the zeal of the converted now for the open source stuff. And yeah, this is the one thing that impressed me today was the enthusiasm and the zeal of the people here. And you know, it's infectious. And I'd like to congratulate you, because coming into the room, I've seen the slides and I've seen I've been noodling around in Git trying to say what's this Nephio about. But today, especially with the demo, I'd like to congratulate you. Really guess what it's about. It's something that it looks really interesting. It looks like a new way of doing things. I think it's something that can enable automation. And I think one thing, if the foundations can be put in there, which makes things automatable, if that's an English word, or did I just invent it, then we can automate. But say to do things like intent, if somebody ever explains to me how you actually can specify an intent, we won't go there. And we can do control loops, say bringing in the plug, on up on the PPL and the policy framework there. There's no reason why we couldn't drop in the policy framework as a set of microservices that are controlled by a CRD, maybe. I don't know. Also, just so how do we? This could be one way that gives us a mechanism which allows us to really automate things, and maybe we can finally get to the promise of what the Keppard and Chess wrote back in 1990 about automation and autonomics. Maybe I'll stop there. One thing though, maybe talk to the ONUP guys around the whole around the whole. They have done all this stuff about building the tool chains and all that stuff. Rather than rebuilding the whole thing, and maybe it's a bit old-fashioned. Maybe it's all Garrett and Jenkins and stuff, but it works, And
then, if time permits, I'll tell you what Fluke Equinix is. Briefly, is a largest data center company world. So, from the 5G and edge perspective, there are so many discussions about what 5G what edge is. But as an observation, we're seeing basically the decrease of distance between the user and the application.
So my name is Victor Morales. I work for Samsung as a senior software engineer. That's been my open source journey. I started with OpenStack in a Havana release, I think so. I have been doing contributions.
Newer than 1,000 kilometers.
Well, even today I still do certain contributions, but I have also contributed to projects like ONA, OpenNFV, and in the CNCF, I participated as a co-chair in the CNF working group. So I consider myself still like a programmer, even when I still don't have too much opportunity to code.
But what we're going to is this
technology
picture on the right, where you have the
distances between the user and the application. Super fan of the cloud benefits that we have it. So,
as an observation,
like using all these technologies that we have talked about, like CI/CD.
So the distance between the user and the application was 50 kilometers.
So regarding my participation
time to get
here,
down on the
I
walls
try to be a good
this is kind of
open source
like
citizen,
a repeat
try
of
to understand,
what we had.
also try to contribute
But
with the few things that I
speaking about the
can.
definitions of the edge, I mean, there are many. But
Try
specifically, if
to
you look at
make this better.
white
I
paper
definitely am
from
very excited to see
Philip
where it's
Edge,
going.
they define
Nephio
edge
as an
as
open source
in a
project, and
couple of
also I try
dimensions,
to
which I don't think
contribute to
are
the
orthogonal, but positioning, mic,
yeah.
on-prem, provider edge, aggregated edge, and so forth. And then functional, user edge, and provider applications.
Okay.
But we'll look at this as slightly different because we know that in any part of the network inside the data centers, we can actually deliver
My
those
name's Tim
functions.
Carey. I'm the cousin of
From the
Elon.
various locations. So, for
It looks
example, we
like,
can
since we're
deliver
both
a
local to
provider
the same.
edge out of the
I used to work for both Ericsson and Nokia.
aggregation
so,
location. So we
so
can
it's like
deliver a user application from
I
a
sit
location
between the
that
both of them. It seems
is
like
not
at
only
some
user
point in my
device. For
career.
example, like
Right
a
now, I'm
virtual
working for
setup.
Qualcomm.
So we're actually looking at it
We're
from
looking at
the
Nephio
latency perspective, of course,
both
and then the
from a community
power
standpoint as
capacity
well as a
and the
company
user.
standpoint. So,
Right?
from
So
a
we kind of
corporate
classify
standpoint,
this
we want to make sure our products
views that
work well
we'd
within
rather
this
define it as
ecosystem
micro edge,
in
macro
terms of
edge,
how we bind our
or in
accelerators
terms of
and
those
our
values.
other
And
products
our focus is not
into
necessarily on the
the
cloud edge
operators
or the cloud,
for particularly
and
in the
interestingly
RAN
enough,
space.
from
But from a
the
community
I guess
perspective, we
business case
also
and
want to
economics
see
perspective,
how
there is a
the
sweet spot where
communities
you don't want to disaggregate too much. You start
work in
installing
a
servers
cohesive fashion,
all this cell towers,
particularly
and
around
it will
ORAN,
become expensive.
some of the work
So
that we're doing there to make
benefit
sure
from
that
some
the
degree
principles and the
some degree of
architectures
segregation.
kind of align as
Basically,
best as they can, and where they can't, it's well
both
defined
from
and
the
well explained why
economics and from
those
the
things aren't
manageability
aligning.
of the data
So
center
those are the
infrastructure. And
two
actually,
primary
efficiency.
pieces of
Yes,
it.
for example,
Our focus
you apply
isn't
this
necessarily,
to
since
more
Nephio is
user-friendly
focused
functions
kind of on
and
the 5G core right
more
now.
capabilities.
We're kind of waiting
The
for
far edge,
the RAN side to come
more
in before we
chattering
get
network
really
because it
active,
handles
but
security, you actually have
or
some
think about getting active.
So we're
But
also
right now,
looking
we're
at,
just,
for example,
again, those two
5G
things, both
from the perspective
self-insured
of a data
and
center company.
community-based.
5G is very interesting, but it's not as interesting as how we can support the deployment of the 5G functions and how more specifically we help solve this multidimensional.
So hello everybody, my name is
We're talking
Hunor
about
Demeter.
carriers need to worry
It's
about
easy to
tech,
remember my name, it's Who Knows, with an R on the
companies
end.
like ours
I am working for
provide data
VMware, but
centers
I
in
have a
different
long
locations, but
record
this
with
is
Nokia,
not
I think
the
longer
answer to
than
the
some of
problem.
the guys
We
who
need
is
to
sitting here. I
go
worked
for
22 years.
connection, we need to solve
At
the
Nokia,
hardware
and I was
configuration,
participating
and
actively in
eventually
ETSI,
applications
so
in the
I
system.
participated in
So
SOL 3
placing this,
standard, and
solving
also
this
created the
manually becomes
VNF
very, very
manager
difficult.
of Nokia
The
called
next
CBAM.
point is that
And the interesting thing, we could not
talking
open
about the
source it
optimality, right? So
that
if we
time,
were to take this infamous use case
but
or infamous
we use
area,
the
the
same
5
declarative
milliseconds, for example, of the
intent-based
ambient
loops for
budget from the
automation for
client to
OpenStack
the workload, right?
and
So if you
also
take the
VMware
best
Cloud.
case scenario,
So
one call,
what I
your
expect
lowest
from Nephio is I think that it could be a more
and you take
disruptive
all that processing
solution
waste roughly,
than kind of
and so you
integrating to
quickly find
ETSI or
out
not.
that the remainder
I
of
am
the
on that
budget is
front
not that
also,
large
and I
for
really
your
hope that
actual
it
application
creates a
to
de facto
the application
standard
process. Therefore, big question here is
this
how do we optimize
concept.
structure
So
and how we do it in a
right now
manner
I am working for a telco
that's
cloud
automated.
automation software
Another
in VMware,
situation is that
and
the
that
complexity
automates
increases increase, right?
infrastructure,
For
network
example,
functions,
we're
and
talking about
we would like to align
pricing.
with Nephio better.
Obviously, there are
Thank
many,
you.
many aspects of pricing. But as Shalom was speaking to this in the yesterday's session, actually, you have this kind of vision that slicing must go on. That means
Hi
that
everyone,
the traffic
my name is
not
Sebastian,
originates from the it
CTO
does
and
not
one of the
stop there.
founders of
It needs to go beyond
Kubernetes.
where the workloads are. So the
We are a
optimal
cloud native
placement
company, so we started with Kubernetes 6.5 years ago,
function,
so
including
quite
user
from the
friendly
beginning on.
functions, edge computing resources with respect
Yes, we
to
have a lot
where
of experience, especially in that
the
space.
that
Do a
actually
lot of
make the
upstream work
position
there as well, for example, contributing to SIG networking. I by myself, I'm on the board of the LF networking, but also on the board of the CNCF. Helping especially to getting all these worlds together, helping companies to moving into the cloud-native world, and strongly believe like Kubernetes could be one of the solutions, not everywhere, but can help quite a lot.
That's sort of a setup for what we're going to be talking next. Before we do this, Vishen, you want to go ahead and introduce Emco and Korea? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ala Goldner. I was for many years in ONAP Requirements Subcommittee Chair, member of the TSC, actually ever since ONAP was launched. And to me, being here is a little bit like reunion, ONAP reunion, because almost everyone has some history related to ONAP anyway. So I left MDocs, and I was basically doing all this ONAP work with MDocs or for MDocs last summer, and I joined NSC, and I lead standardization and open source activities. So for me, this is basically the second conference where I come to represent NSC, and right now more in exploration phase of actually trying to understand where we need to extend and expand our representation, what we need to do. So I would say in the monitoring mode, but having said that, Netcracker, which is subsidiary of NSC, participates in Nephio as well. And now a little bit on my expectation and what I sense from this meeting, I would like to say. So I do think, and I think I strongly agree with Ling Li on that, Nephio may not be solving that service orchestration layer, but I would expect to see the architecture picture of how Nephio would be connecting to that service layer orchestration. By the way, does not necessarily have to be ONAP or EMCO or whatever based. It can also be vendor, but we need to see the architecture, the full architecture and connection between the layers and how that might be connected. And second thing, I would like to see actually more like, ORAN use case, because I think that there is a lot of activities going on around ORAN also in open source community. And I think definitely this is the opportunity and the right space. One additional thing which perhaps, not only for this forum, but also for the right large Linux Foundation networking discussion, is that I would expect to see significantly more collaboration, not just, in action, and that probably should be achieved by really, having a wide umbrella for organization. So I can definitely understand why for the first year it was done as it was done as a separate project, but I would definitely expect, starting from April or whenever, it becomes relevant, actually, all those projects to be more connected to each other, again, perhaps under the same umbrella, perhaps by any other means, but, somehow to leverage the work also done by others and have some, joint view of the architecture, how it can be done. But, having said all that, I'm very excited about this project. I do think that there is also an advantage in the way you decided to do things, which is completely different from what, for example, we started with in ONAP. We started from actually the full view, the architecture, lots of discussions which are not hands-on. And for me, it was really a refreshment having those hands-on sessions, in the beginning of this day. So this is really a different way, I would say, going forward. And certainly there are advantages also in proceeding this way. But, eventually, I think that success would be in the right combination of both. So this is what I would expect to see. And from NSC perspective, again, we have several lines of products where, we would be interested to kind of, to see where it goes. And, in case that we see that actually it proceeds in the direction we would like to, we would be happy to participate more actively. And some of my colleagues also here today attend. So, definitely looking forward for further collaboration. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Vajiha. Sorry, I was out, so I missed my introduction. Thanks, John. I'm the product manager in Canonical right now, and I've been working in the Meno domain, like telco domain, specifically Meno, and very specific to open source Meno. Don't kill me for that. But yeah, so I have been working at the open source Meno. We were the founding members of open source Meno. So yeah, working with its standard, Soul, and all that stuff. So for Nephio, we are really looking forward that how we can contribute there. Canonical has their operators for many of the solutions out there, many of the open source solutions. So we are really looking forward that how we can contribute, how we can automate, provide some automation to Nephio. For example, we have our own automated Magma, and we are looking forward to automate the RAN, and that's what we are that's why we are here to actually see how we can automate the and we can contribute the operators to Nephio. And we are also looking forward for the substrate like Kubernetes. We have the automated Kubernetes, so maybe we can contribute to that part also. So still, like I would really like to understand the additional value over OSM and over ONAP with Nephio. I'm to be honest, I'm still confused, but yeah. So the main concern is what's the additional value for Nephio, but a lot of things are clear now. So yeah, that's it. So thank you.
Contribute the operator, contribute young model and all the stuff like, yeah, that's
the
awesome.
list is done.
Yeah.
That's done. Yeah. We need some UI.
So I put the list in.
UI.
He wants to bring the UI.
Oh, let's pass on.
Hi, my name is Bala Varadaraju. I work for Red Hat as a principal engineer / manager. I'm confused with the role. I worked with, if anybody remembers OpenDaylight, I've been a committer / TSC member and also of OpenDaylight. And I also worked a little bit in OpenStack. So Red Hat, as you all know, it's a upstream first policy for all the products. And we are big on OpenShift / Kubernetes. And obviously, telco is a big market. We play a big role both in core as well as RAN. So we want to understand, and we are very excited about Nephio and where it's going and how we can play a meaningful role. Looking forward to that. Thanks.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Lisa Caba. I'm also with Red Hat. I'm in the open source program office within the office of the CTO at Red Hat, and I look after basically all of our telco-related upstream engagements. So I work closely with Bala and Tal and other folks. I am actually very excited and encouraged to see a lot of familiar ONAP faces. I think this is actually a great asset for this community because everybody here knows what's already been built, knows what's useful, knows where the gaps are, knows what the opportunities are. So I'm really looking forward to, I really appreciate the very strong emphasis on having a tight initial scope. I think that's great. I think that we all learned from ONAP in that regard. And I'm really looking forward to how this evolves and starts to fill in some of those gaps that we've observed in the past.
Hi, my name is Tal. I've been at Ericsson for 60 years now, and all the cool kids are at Ericsson. I want to be. Yeah, I know a lot of you already. You know, I'll echo what Ala says. It does feel a bit like a reunion. I've been doing this for 10 years now. These meetings, various forums. There's a Hebrew expression. I've already seen this movie. Where we mean that we feel a sense of deja vu, and I'll echo, a lot of people saying here, are we repeating this? Are we, a new project carving new ground? We've tried to do this. Maybe this is the fourth time, trying to boil this ocean in some way. But I think there's always progress. I can see that in the 10 years here, and I'll echo Ishti, right? What you said before about a lot of us have been talking about this for a while. I remember there was an ONAP meeting where I gave a presentation called Let's Move Everything to Kubernetes. And I asked people, who thinks this is a good idea? And people laughed at me and through tomatoes. No. But here we are. I think it's gratifying to see that, you know, some of us who maybe had the privilege to be more research-oriented, right? We don't have to deliver something every day. We could kind of read the tea leaves and see where this is going. So yeah, some of you remember me from my Cloudify days where I started. I'm at Red Hat right now. I'm a senior principal engineer in the same team, a few of us here at Telco Solutions. You know, for me, I'm the co-chair of SIG number 2 here in the automation SIG in Nephio. What I care about most is actually, you know, we talk about automation and declarative and all that, but to me, it's about scalability. All these things are for scalability. Things are growing already far beyond what we can manage. Even our tools can't manage them. And it's all these other words, declarative, automation, all that, orchestration, that keep the eye on the ball. We're trying to manage these things at huge, huge scales that just keep growing almost daily, right? Edge, 5G, we're talking hundreds of thousands, millions of sites, not just devices, sites, and behind each site, so many devices. So if we keep focused on that, I think we'll keep making progress. And again, it's nice to see everybody again here. Who's next?
Hi, my name is Nikos Anerousis. I'm the global practice leader for Network and Edge at Kyndryl Consult. Now, don't let the title fool you. I'm very technical, formerly distinguished engineer at IBM Research and Global Technology Services. I used to be a network I started as a network researcher, so you can see from my gray hair, I've been around, seen many evolutions of network architecture back programmable networks in the late 90s before we called SDN. Kyndryl is the spin-off from IBM, 1 year old, and I represent a fairly large consulting and implementation build organization. The interesting thing that I'm seeing is there is a change in the network the profession of the network architect, the network specialist, from being very data center centric to understanding and being comfortable in the cloud and designing and implementing network architectures in the cloud. What used to be formerly a Cisco professional is very much a software engineer that understands hyperscaler networking. I mostly see problems in the enterprise, not so much the CSP world. We mostly deal with enterprise clients. And what I see is network architecture in the cloud is underrepresented, probably not given the first consideration where a cloud landing zone or a bigger cloud architecture is designed. And I want to elevate the standing, the importance of proper network design. It's also, the cloud arena is very complex. And the reason I'm here is to understand more about all the open source projects, automation capabilities, because I think the industry really needs better tools, better automation, better frameworks to tame the complexity in cloud, and also rise above the surface when it comes to important design aspects such as networking. Okay. I can talk for another hour, but I'll better stop here. So very nice to meet all of you. I'm here primarily to learn. I think I know Liam from a previous life, so we'll get back to that later. Who's next?
Hi, my name is Michael Morris. I'm the Ericsson person who didn't sit in the Ericsson row. So, been quite a while in Ericsson, but not as long as Tal has, so a bit to go yet on that. Mostly working on proprietary systems, but working in open source for the last 4 years or so, in variety of ONAP projects, most recently as the PTL and the SC project. In terms of Nephio, didn't really know a whole lot about it today, so just came here today to hear what was it about, what was the vision for what it wanted to achieve. It's just like to echo what someone said earlier on in terms of the demo. Say a picture paints 1,000 words, and nothing paints, in terms of software, nothing paints a picture more than seeing it running. So it's great to see the demo today and get hands-on seeing it run. So thanks and well done to those involved in that.
So I'm Jonas Johansson from Nokia, and in the same way as Michael, I didn't get the memo that we're actually seated in company rows. But or maybe I just wasn't invited to be on the company row. That kind of like being enough. Yeah, or maybe there's mail that I didn't read. Anyways, so I am. Like Timo, I'm in the company kind of like in corporate CTO office. I'm responsible for open sourcing initiatives, including our OSPO and things like that. So I'm here mostly because I heard that there would be coffee, and getting a T-shirt is also a kind of like a nice surprise. In the kind of like professional life, I'm in the board of LFN, I'm in the board of LFAI and data, and I'm involved in the kind of like in many of these, especially in the governance area. From the past, I'm a recovering standards person, so I had about 20 years of standards experience before moving to open source, and I've been now with kind of like running the open source things for Nokia for about, I think, 8 years already, which is kind of like just for saying for the gentleman who used to be in Nokia, so it's actually, this is my second tour in Nokia, so it's possible to come back. It seems to be impossible to go away again after that. But anyways, I think that this is really now, seriously looking at this community, it seems that the direction seems good. It seems that there is a nice buzz in this. And I think that I would like to echo that what Wim said is basically try and start with building the structure and the foundation and build on that rather than trying to boil the whole ocean at once. You have time then over time to boil the ocean after that. But building this kind of like foundation after that, it's easier to do that rather than trying to fix everything in the beginning. Thank you.
I'm Amar Kapadia. I'm with a startup called Amar Networks, and we did get the memo. So Brandon, my colleague, and I are sitting neatly in one row. Thank you. We build orchestration software for Edge, ORAN SMO, private 5G use cases. It's entirely built out of Linux Foundation projects. So we've been involved with LFN quite closely, like everybody else. We've been part of ONAP. We've been affiliated with MCO, CNCF projects, and ORAN SC. We are super excited about Nephio, and I would say for 3 reasons. First, it's cloud native. So, I mean, how can you go wrong with cloud native? Second is its simplicity. So, having worked on other technologies, I've come to appreciate simplicity. And the third reason is the completeness of thought. Obviously, there's a lot of work remaining, but I do feel that the thinking is complete. I mean, architecturally, I feel that all the I's have been dotted, all the T's have been crossed. So that's why we are super excited. We are working on, out of the 3 pillars that John and Sana and others described this morning, we are working on the infra. We are most excited about using Nephio for infra orchestration first, of course for others use cases as well, other pillars, but initially infra. And that's what Sandeep from our team is actively contributing. And we are also going to include R1 in our product by April-May timeframe. Thanks.
Thanks, Amar, and glad we got the seating chart right. My name is Brandon Wick, and I'm a Senior Director of Marketing at Amar Networks. And prior to working at Amar, I had the good fortune of working at the Linux Foundation and working with many of you here in the audience today. So it's great to see a lot of familiar faces. It sounds like there's a lot of open source experience in this room, which is great. And you know, you don't really have to go over the basics of follow the code of conduct and be respectful to each other. I think you already are off to a really good start. So as Amar mentioned, we're very excited about Nephio and the potential in the marketplace. And as a marketer, want to get the word out to the ecosystem about what the project is doing. But that said, it has to be based on tangible foundation and work and results. So there's a lot of hype and a lot of excitement. And now as we get towards, I guess, the first release early next year, it'll start getting more tangible. And I look forward to following the progress of the project in that way, and then help tell the ecosystem what we're doing.
Hello, my name is Mikio. I'm from NEC, and as Ara-san already described, so just watching, exploring the possibility of Nephio, but with an individual software developer, I would like to contribute something with my experience of the software project led by Mr. Pike of Google. I mean, Go language.
Thanks, and good afternoon. My name is Ian Hood, and I'm the Chief Technologist and Strategist for Red Hat's telco business and our global industries. And I'm here actually to listen and learn, as many. I've just started to hear about this one, and as I heard earlier, I've been involved in many four-letter acronym standards bodies that go way back in history to when you wrote drafts, you know, for those four-letter guys and did those kind of things. I've only been in the open source side for about 6 years now, since I joined Red Hat. I'm more on the networking system side, and so where I spend my time is actually working with our customers and our partners to figure out how this technology we're bringing to the market actually solves those business problems that they have, and try not to get wrapped up in all the cool technology, because if it doesn't actually make any business sense, it doesn't really help us all. And so I also look for it to be real and tangible, and I want to see how it fits into what we've already got without having to rewrite the wheel and do it, you know, again and again and again, because I've seen the movie in many times repeated over and over in history, right? But it's always good to see, you know, the enthusiasm to go find and break new ground. So with that, leave it to you.
Hello, hi. My name is Vishwanath Jayaraman. I go by Vish. So my open source project journey started back in 2014, contributing to OpenStack, and we had Tacker that the telcos were interested back then. I'm always excited about open source projects. I'm currently at Red Hat, which encourages that, and looking forward to meaningful contributions in Nephio. It's exciting. It takes me back to my undergrad days and master's days. You know, working in open source projects is like doing some school projects. That's the excitement you get out of it for me. That's how I feel. Meeting some very smart people out there and collaborating and different thinking. So, wishing Nephio all the success. So, have a good evening.
All right, so I think we are coming to final hour, and really, really appreciate for coming in. And what is next is that we would post all the presentation that we had today, and we will post into the website. And we will also post all the presentations and the recordings as well. So I don't know how many people still left in the call. I don't know, anybody want to talk from the call? I'm pretty sure that there are a few people in, but maybe if they are in Europe, like they may be sleeping, or it's very hard to follow up, you know, in the call. So the next step, I think there's a couple of follow-up that we would like to do, and I think the discussions, whatever need to happen in the SIG groups, they will continue. there's a lot of feedback, a lot of enthusiasm, so we really appreciate that. And from a TSC perspective, we would also like to explore the areas that we want to point out. And there were a couple of questions around the scope and having the scope minimized and stuff like that. There are a few items that I want to sort of remind it, especially for new people coming in. Especially on the service orchestration layer, we made a very conscious decision that we would not go and boil the ocean with the service orchestration layer. So that's actually in the charter itself, the presentation that we initially did, because we know that that conversation will get sort of entangled. So we made that very, very clear that we focus on the configuration management and the domain automation of the three pillars that we talked about. Cloud infrastructure, then the Kubernetes and the interdependency around it, then the network function. So we want the community to focus primarily on that. And we also really took a step towards like, pinpointed 5G related use cases to start with, because there's a lot could be done like with the transport and many other like a wireline and many things. And we made it very, very small on that. And there were also questions around like, hey, do you automate enterprise application? And we also clarified that that is not the scope of this community to start with. Of course, like probably in the future. And we said like, hey, network function is the way to go. So we also shortened the scope. And the other aspect is that regarding the control plane, there were asks around like, hey, what do we do with the CRDs? And it's a fantastic discussion. I think we should continue that discussion. There were questions around like, hey, how do you come up with the CRD schemas and stuff like that? The general thought process is that we would like to have the CRD open in the community. And I think there were discussions around like, how do you fit the vendor-specific proprietary stuff into it? I think the community should sort of like discuss through it. But the general idea is that the CRD should be open so that automation operators can be written by anybody, but the community to guide on like what that operator has to look like, right? So when you look at the content that we have used, I would really, really encourage everybody to do that because some of you are coming new into the community. So we had like almost a 1 day worth of, I would not say 1 day, it's even actually 2 day worth of content. It's in the YouTube. That is from the Developer Summit 1. A lot of this concepts has been very well explained, very well discussed through that in that one. So if you are very interested in, if you go to wiki.nephio.org and go to the events page, and in the events page, like specifically on the Developer Summit 1, if you go in, why we started this community, we had a very short summary that Sana covered it today. But we have a worth of content, like almost 2 days worth of content that primarily talks about, like why we did it, how we did it, and where we want to take the community in. But again, the initial were all opinions coming from Google and stuff like that. But given that now it's a fully community-driven project, we are looking forward for community to shape it. And then there's also other question come along around like, hey, how do we collaborate with other community? Do we take code from other things and stuff like that? We really want to be a collaborative community. We made this point like very, very clearly. And this is another reason why we wanted this conference and the summit to be within this conference so that the people, they feel like this is a collaborative community. But we also has to be really mindful of like breaking status quo on some of those areas, right? So if you go to copycat another community, then there's no reason to have Nephio in place. So there are some places where we want to break the ground and change the status quo, and primarily the Kubernetes-based automation. So that fundamental is not going to change. But other areas that, contribution coming from the third-party communities, we definitely welcome. And the other thing I want to point out is that we are very focused in getting the release 1 out. And I think that is a discussion primarily happen. And with the workshop, I think it giving more idea about the hands-on experience. But we will continue to do this until we finish the line on release 1. There are some responsibility that TSC has to take it. So we have in a TSC community document. So if you go to wiki.org, nephio.org, there is a community document talks about the community process. We would like to further enhance it in some of the area, which I will bring up in the next TSC call and drive through some more additional content that allows us to bring in new concept and projects and around the SIG group. But we didn't want to also scale like so many SIG groups and sort of like create a confusion in the community. We very consciously made a decision that 3 SIG groups, and there is a very focused worth of communication, and unless we create 20 SIG groups, then primarily, everybody will get stretched and fighting for a particular time on Tuesday and Wednesday or Thursday, and things will get complicated. So I think from a focus perspective, we are very super careful about it, and we really want to focus and get it done. But I would encourage people to look at the Developer Summit content as well. And pretty much everything done in this community is recorded, and the slides are uploaded. And pretty much the discussion happening in TSC groups, they're all in YouTube. And everybody is encouraged to see it. I'm not requesting to go and look at like 20 or 40 videos, but if you're interested in it, it gives the general idea about the community. So any final questions or anything that we want to talk before we break in? And I also want to point out that we try to get a social place for us to go and have a drink. Unfortunately, Seattle is not taking reservation. We don't know why. We called at least 10 places, and they were like, no reservation available, just walk in. So I don't know, is anybody familiar with the Seattle? If you know any place we can walk in. I don't know how many of you are still interested. In the morning, a lot of hands were there. I don't know how many of you are still interested to lift your hand. Yeah. So Tina is lifting like 2 hands and probably 2 beers, I guess. So I think, so if you are still interested, we can probably go to like a cheesecake factory and see whether they still have a room. We can try out or maybe just walk around and figure out a place. That was a lunch. So this is a dinner. There's a huge difference in Seattle.